Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and today I'm going to be talking about my summer TBR. I've mentioned before that TBRs don't generally work for me, so I decided the best way to make them work for me is to make this a challenge. I'm a very competitive person. I don't like losing, and I especially don't like having to get rid of books. So that is what I will be doing today. This is my summer TBR challenge. If I don't complete this challenge, then the books that I'm mentioning, I have to get rid of. So my challenge is that over the next 3 months, I'm counting June, July, and August as the summer months, I have to read 8 of 10 books that I've chosen, and if I don't read at least 8 of these books, all of the books that I have not read, I have to get rid of. And before I discuss the books that I've picked today, I had a few requirements for the books that I was picking. I wasn't just going to pick books that I really want to read or a new release. These are requirement number 1 is that the books that I've chosen have at least needed to be on my shelf for a year. And I've given myself a little leeway, but it's been on my shelf for around a year, then these books qualify. Requirement number 2 is that these books have been backlisted, meaning these are books that you've wanted to pick up, that you've been going to almost, and then something else, something newer takes its place. So that is kind of in line with the been on my TBR for a year, but has to be a book that you've been pushing aside. And my third and final requirement, as an extra push, had to have 2 classics on this list, 2 sequels on this list, 2 standalones, and 1 literary fiction. And the remaining 3 spots were just a do whatever you want. Now I'm gonna quickly discuss the 10 books that I've picked. I think this challenge will actually motivate me because as a bookish person, I hate getting rid of books. It hurts me and I find it really, really hard to unhaul books. So this is do or die. If I do not read these in the next 3 months, I have to get rid of them. And there's a couple that are a part of series or even like classics that I've been meaning to read for such a long time, and it will kill me to get rid of them, but I'm holding myself accountable. I have to get these books read. The first 3 books that are on this TBR were my classics. I actually ended up picking 3 classics. I picked Persuasion by Jane Austen. Cannot for the life of me remember anything that this is about, but I heard that Persuasion was a good one to pick up if you're new to Jane Austen, and I have read Pride and Prejudice, but again, I'm still pretty new to her, so Persuasion is my first one. The next classic I picked was 1984 by George Orwell. This book is everywhere, super popular, so many people have read it, and I've been meaning to read it for such a long time. I could have described this to you better a few years ago, but 1984 follows, I think it was written in like 1948, and it follows how the American government kind of like polices everyone. I think it's America, I'm not sure. And just like how surveillance and there's no privacy, and it's classic dystopian. They're basically all the same themes. I've just been meaning to get to it for years. And the last classic on this list I picked was A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. I actually read maybe 20-30 pages about a year ago, but I was going on vacation, and this is a very tough read. It's very sickening, and it's not one that can be read in one sitting, which I know is surprising seeing as there's only maybe like 120 pages in it. This one as well is a classic dystopian, and it deals with themes that I really, really like in classic dystopia. It follows a boy named Alex who is just a terrible, terrible human being. He's a rapist, he's a murderer, he's just like the worst type of human, but the government, I believe, captures him or does something to that effect and starts like indoctrinizing him and tries to force him into being a good person. Burgess explores whether or not that's right or wrong, and I really like these types of stories, but it's really hard to stomach, and I know this is one that I will have to read throughout the summer. It's not one that I can just binge. It's a really hard story. The literary fiction book that I put on this list was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I know this is historical fiction, but it also is it's a cross-genre one. It is literary fiction, and again, I picked this up about a year ago and read the first 20-30 pages, and it just was not holding my attention. I really like the style in which this is written. It's written in, like, each chapter is about 1 to 2 pages long. All the Light We Cannot See follows a blind French girl named Marie Claire, something along the lines of that, and a boy soldier on the German side. I believe their storylines intersect. It's an emotional, heavy read, but I really think this one will be worth it. I have 2 sequels on the list. The first one is Hollow City by Ransom Riggs. I was really torn as to whether or not I was going to get to the sequel, just because I enjoyed the first one enough, but I didn't really care enough for it to want to move on. So this one is being put to the test, and if I don't read it in the next 3 months, then I have to get rid of it. The next book I have to read is Rebel Spring by Morgan Rhodes. I read Fallen Kingdoms about a year ago, really enjoyed it. It wasn't the most original fantasy story I've ever read, but really enjoyed it, and I've been meaning to get to the sequel. This one I'm fairly confident I will get to. I had to put 2 standalones on this list that didn't really fit the other categories, so I picked The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. The Rest of Us Just Live Here is a contemporary story set in a fantasy world. I believe at the beginning of every chapter you get, I think it's like headlines and news stories about the chosen one saving the day in the world, but our main characters are, I think, just going to school, which is very interesting. The next book I'm going to talk about is On the Other Side by Carrie Hope Fletcher. Carrie Hope Fletcher is actually a British YouTuber who is basically on Broadway, but in the UK. I think they call it the West End. I've followed her for years. She came out with a nonfiction book a couple years ago, but that didn't interest me. However, her newest release got my attention. This is a magical realism story who follows a woman who I think has to set a few things right in her life before she goes to heaven. I could be totally butchering this and making it seem super dumb, but I've been meaning to get to this one for a while. I actually technically may have 2 copies of this book, and I still haven't read it, so I really need to get to this one. So one of my freebie choices I picked was The Wrath in the Dawn by Renee Audier. This is a 1001 Nights retelling. I might be wrong. A lot of people love it and said it's really angsty and great, and then other people don't like it, again, because of how angsty it is. So I'm interested to see where I fall on the spectrum. I've also been dragging my heels on reading this book because I've been waiting for the sequel to pop up on Book Outlet, and it officially has, so I will be getting to The Wrath in the Dawn this summer. I have to. I have no other choice. The last book I picked is none other than The Selection by Kira Cass. I think this book is technically a dystopian. Really, it's just The Bachelor for royalty. And kind of an embarrassing fact about me, but I love the Bachelor franchise. I know it's garbage. I kind of hate myself for liking it, but I devour the show, and I have a feeling I will devour this one as well. This again has a lot of people split. A lot of people hate it because they think, I believe the main character is really annoying. I'm hoping this is going to be a guilty pleasure read, but I stuck it on this list because I know I'll be able to get through it fast. That is my summer TBR challenge. Some of the books that I'm looking at now I'm slightly daunted by, so this will be interesting. We're gonna see how well this goes over. I'd like to know if TBRs work for you. They've never really worked for me. This is kind of an experiment and it could go horribly wrong, but I'm holding myself accountable. I'm going to read at least 8 of these books in these summer months. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye!